Thumbs up. Good. Good morning and welcome to Metro East Unitarian Universalist Congregation, and a special hello to those watching this service remotely. We are glad you're here. I'm Peg Flack and my pronouns are she, her. I first entered our Alton Church in the mid-1980s, seeking the duality of a Sunday school experience for my kids and a sacred space for me. And it stuck, and I have been here for almost 4 decades. We are a small congregation who recently moved from Alton to this site in Glen Carbon, and we are spiritually led on every other Sunday with Reverend Dr. Claudia Hall and our fantastic board president, Dr. Burkle. She's out there. We gratefully share this sacred space with the Edwardsville Masonic Lodge. As Unitarian Universalists, we welcome everyone to join us in this, our home of comfort, spirit, justice, and hope. We open our service with a prelude by our accompanist, Joy Heft. An important ritual in the Unitarian Universalist faith is the lighting of our chalice. Unitarian Universalists have many different interpretations for the flaming chalice. It includes the light of reason, the warmth of community, and the flame of hope. In my chakra-based spirituality, that includes Reiki, fire is cleansing. The energies that no longer serve us are neutralized and sanitized with flame. So this speaks to me personally, and we honor however fire speaks to you personally. As an expression of leadership in our community, the children select someone each week to light the chalice. As they approach you, please say yes if you're able to help them build their leadership skills as the next generation of Unitarian Universalists. So do we have a child here that's going to choose someone to light the chalice? Very good. Flame. If you're watching elsewhere and have a chalice or candle, please light it and join us in saying the unison words projected on the screen. We hallow this time together by kindling the lamp of our heritage. Today's service aligns with about all of our 7 UU principles, but in particular, it will resonate most heavily with our first and our 7th principles. The inherent worth and dignity of every person, and respect for the interdependent of all existence for which we are a part. As part of our weekly worship service, we take time for the expression of joys, concerns, and sorrows, and here in our new home is a place where we can each share the little things that weigh down our souls or that fill us with joy, and with those who surround us in good times and in turmoil. So if you would like to recognize a joy, a sorrow, or a milestone, you can come forward behind Robin and place a stone or several stones in this water bowl to represent each of your joys and sorrows. There are stones in the front, and we'll start from the back and move forward. Let us begin in a spirit of prayer and meditation. She's going to share a story for our young people present today, as well as young at heart.
Good morning. So here we see, an interesting picture of an elephant. Yeah, come on to the front. Yeah. Want to sit? You can sit. You can sit. So I want to share with you a story about an elephant. About an elephant who was kind of lonely. And so the elephant is going through the woods. And, he's kind of lonely and would like to have some friends. And so the first animal he sees is a monkey. It's a monkey. How are you? I would like to be your friend. You want to be my friend? Look, I swing from trees. You're kind of big. I don't think you can hang with me. I'm sorry, but no, I cannot be your friend. Okay. Now, this elephant had a very good disposition. Even though the monkey wasn't very nice, okay, no problem. Elephant goes on his way, still looking for friends. Next animal you see is a rabbit. Rabbit, how are you? I would like to be your friend. Said, you want to be my friend? See, you're my holy right here, deep in the ground. You can't come home with me. I'm sorry, you're kind of big. You cannot be my friend. Elephant says, okay, no problem. So the elephant moves on. Runs into a frog. Hey, frog, how are you doing? I want to be your friend. You want to be my friend? I'm sorry, see, I move. I'm smooth and I'm moving. You're kind of log and heavy. And I'm sorry, you cannot be my friend. And that day, just so happened, everywhere he went, it's the same answer. You're too big. It's something that they said about him was not good enough for him to be good friend. He was a little bit sad, but again, he had a good attitude. He thought, it's okay, that's fine. Maybe tomorrow will be better. So I went home, still alone. And next morning, he got up, and there's all this noise and loud noises going on in the forest. Something's going on. He's like, and so he ran into the bear and said, "Bear, what's going on?" He said, "Look, see, the tiger is here chasing all the small animals. So animals are scared, and animals are running all over the place. But there's some problems here." He said, "Oh, really?" So Elephant goes, runs into the tiger and says, "Hey, tiger, what's going on? Hey, move out of my way. I'm here chasing these animals." And Elephant said, "Really? But these are my friends. I don't appreciate you chasing off my friends." And the tiger said, "Well, what are you going to do about it?" Well, he said, "The elephant was really big and really strong." So the elephant took his one foot and like, whoop. And that tiger went way through the air and landed and ran off. So he chased off that tiger. So then monkey came, rabbit came, frog came, and all these small animals came and said, "This is what you did for us? No, we weren't very nice. You know what? You are the exact right size to be our friends." And so from that day on, they befriended him. They made way for him. And it didn't matter what size he was or how heavy he was, because the elephant was patient and he was kind. They became his friend.
Take the children to their activities.
Nothing will go with you. Learn and grow. Learn and grow.
So in addition to sharing her gifts with us today, Aminata has graciously agreed to spend lunch with us and provide a workshop session beginning at some point after we get done with lunch. Aminata is an anthropologist, a psychologist, an educator, a storyteller, an independent consultant, a former lector of inclusive education, and the first and only research professor of African descent in the Netherlands. Born in the Netherlands, she left for the U.S. at age 18, where she pursued an academic career. She returned to the Netherlands after 30 years and obtaining 2 master's degrees and a PhD. And she's also spent time as a professor right here at SIUE. I know Aminata from leading African dance sessions at Gaia Studios and at my Wild Succulent Women of the Wood retreats. I see a few of the women here, and she would coerce us into a beautiful valley where we African danced in the Girl Scout campground. And she also has presented workshops locally at New Song Fellowship. And relevant to this congregation, she's also a good friend of our friend, Sayer Johnson, who I think is ill today. I'm hoping he's watching online. So please welcome Aminata.
So I wrote this book, and this book is called Holding Space, and it came out of my work. I was a lecturer, which is a research professor of inclusive education at Hague University of Applied Sciences in the Netherlands, and I was finding that the way I was doing my work was a little bit different than everybody else when it came to this diversity and inclusion stuff. And so at some point I wrote a book about it. So that's what this book is about, and that's what I want to share with you today. So I'm going to read a little bit, and then I'm going to talk. Alternative spaces to the larger, dominant narrative give credence to one's value and humanity. These spaces where existence is resistance are created out of a need, an answer to an inner calling to be affirmed in this world. When you know who you are in relation to the 7 directions, you know who you are as a person, and you are strengthened in your relationship with the world. Thus, the community surrounds you and holds the east, the south, the west, and the north. You stomp your feet touching the earth, connecting with the soil, allowing it to hold you up, reverberating from below that Mother Earth has got you. You raise your arms up to the sky, preferably out in the air at night, affirming that you are a star child, made up of the same stuff of all the nature that surrounds you, that you are connected to it all. Finally, you go inside, and transcend. This is our purpose. This is our task, to hold space for each other, to use and acknowledge all of our humanity. There is a need for us, all of us in our relations, to do this love work. The love work requires us to shake off conditioned behaviors that had hundreds, if not thousands, of years to develop, become seasoned and settle in. It requires us to work on ourselves, to pick up on our conditioned habits, and actively try to change them. It requires us to be honest and face our shortcomings while using our gifts and sharing them with others. It requires us to no longer ignore the signals that alert us when things go off kilter in our space. It requires that we take the collective as a starting point rather than the individual. And through understanding and connectedness, persevere to regard all people in their humanness and all of nature as our extended selves. It requires us to stay focused and committed to uplifting the community. It requires us to bring ourselves, all of ourselves, to do the work and to take care of each other, ourselves, and seek reprieve when needed. It requires us to stop, get centered, grounded, and reconnect when needed. Breathe in, breathe out. So, I want to share with you. So, this approach that I use is, turned out to be very different. And my background is anthropology, and so out of that, what I use is this concept of stories. Because what I noticed is the way we engage the world, we do that through stories. The way we understand the world, we do that through stories. And so, even when we engage in these spaces that we try to create with each other, what is the story that we want to create with each other? What are the stories that we hold on to for dear life? What are some of the stories that we need to let go of? And how do we collectively change the story that we do together? So that's the approach that I use. Next slide, please. So when it comes to this diversity and inclusion, if you ask 10 people, what does that mean? You're going to get 10 different answers. This is my answer, and it starts with a story. So this is a drawing by my oldest child. And a number of years ago, he went to Art Institute to study animation and comic book art. And I have 3 sons, so he was like the hero in my house. He draws superheroes and things like that. Well, he has a very much a strong passion for girls, saying that there's not enough different images for girls. So this is one of his drawings. So my story starts with him. So a number of years ago, I took my son to college, long ride. At the time we lived in Kentucky, and it was in Georgia. Oh, I shouldn't have said state, sorry. So anyway, so we went for a long ride, 10 to 12 hours by car. And this is my baby. This is my first one. So, I'm going to take my baby to college. So you're excited, but it's also, you see you're driving, trying not to think about going to leave my child, But then when we got there, it was kind of okay, because, artists, they're a little different folks. So it's like the whole city was taken over by this artist. He said, okay, you're going to be with your people. This is a good thing. Go be with your people. Do your thing. So we're there 2-3 days, and about the 3rd day in, they bring us into this arena, basketball arena. It's all these students and their parents, and it's just like it's a sport event. Oh, you're one of us now, throwing out t-shirts, sound show, light show, very exciting. Yes, you're one of us. And then they go, look at the diversity that we have. Our African American students stand up. Latino students stand up. Asian students stand up. Native Americans stand up. International students stand up. Look at how diverse we are. Now, I live in the Netherlands now. They would never, ever do that. They would never call that out. But in the U.S., yes, we do. All right? So, this big show, look at how we are. Look at how diverse we are. Right. Indeed, it was very diverse. So you say your goodbyes, go do your thing. It's going to be okay. And about 3 weeks later, he calls me and said, Ma, guess what? We're studying art history. We're skipping African art history. We're skipping Asian art history. We're skipping Oceanic art history. The only art history we're going to study is European art history. It's the #1 arts institute in the U.S. So it's great that you call it all this diversity. That's cute. That's nice. But, and diversity, what diversity means is that you have a range, that you have a wealth of stories. That's really all that diversity means, right? So out of this wealth of stories that we have, you choose to tell one story, right? Of course, we're going to tell this story. Can you change this slide for me, please? And just hit it twice. Hit it once more. what I refer to as the dominant story. So out of this wealth of story, you have a story that's become dominant. Well, of course, we're going to tell this story. That then becomes the valid story. Obviously, we're going to tell this story as the important story, etc., etc., etc. And what happens to those other stories that get silenced, overlooked, invalidated? Oh, maybe if we have some time left over, extracurricular, etc., etc. And so what I use, the language that I use in this work, I talk about, again, out of this wealth of story, there's a story that has become dominant, and other, unfortunately, automatically means less than. Right? And so I use the language dominant and the other. And so my goal is, how do we connect and validate all of the stories that are already there? And how do we do that? And I use that language dominant and the other on purpose. There's other languages being used, especially from academia. You hear a lot about white privilege. And yes, sometimes this is about whiteness and people of color. Sometimes about men versus women. Sometimes about women versus men. Sometimes about adults versus children. Sometimes about I'm from the city, you're from the rural area. Sometimes about the LGB versus the T. Sometimes about I work on the fourth floor and you work on the first floor. It's all that to say, all of us are in the position of dominance sometimes. All of us are in the position of others sometimes, depending on the situation and depending on the context. That's why I use that language. Another reason I use that language, you also hear a lot about the oppressors versus the oppressed. That's personally not language that I use because it gives the impression that we're separate from each other. And our starting point is that it's always about us. Some of us always go first. Some of us are always acknowledged, and some of us are not. But ultimately, it's always about us and how we have grown to relate to each other in a certain way, and the things that we have learned and the things that we've come to do. And so my goal then is how do we validate all of the stories that are there? That's the job. And nobody's going to say that it's not a good idea. Of course, it's what we want. However, for some reason, it's very hard. This did not happen overnight. It took hundreds of years of us to get here. Right? And so there's all kinds of mechanisms that have contributed to that. There's all kinds of mechanisms that keep this in place. So the moment you try to do this, all kinds of stuff starts to happen and we're right back here. Right? We have all kinds of mechanisms. One of which, a powerful one, is language, the language that we use. Right? So I just mentioned white privilege. White privilege is a theory that helps us understand things. Nothing wrong with that, but I've also seen it used as a weapon to shut people up. Right? So that when you want to have the conversation, well, you have white privilege. You know what? Never mind. Right back here. Don't have the conversation. Right back here. Right? Or the person that has been overlooked and silenced, and they say, let me tell you what that's about. Well, you're such a victim. Never mind. Conversation over. We're right back here. So how do we use language, right, to maintain the separation that we have? There's all kinds of other, again, mechanisms that we have that contribute, that help maintain this. And so there's a word, and it's a Dutch word. It's called gezellig. And it is my goal that the whole world knows this word. We have apartheid, which is another Dutch word that we're not very proud of, but the whole world knows that word. It's a Dutch word. Gezellig is another one. And gezellig means cozy, comfortable. Right? And so when it comes to, why you want to talk about discrimination? That's not gezellig. That's not nice. Right? And so gezellig also works as a leveling mechanism. Like the moment I want to have this conversation, man, that's not gezellig. We were here. How are you going to talk about discrimination? And the conversation is over. But we don't engage. Right? Or another thing that happens, another thing that said a lot is like, just can't say anything anymore. You heard that one? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what they're saying is, when I bring this up, it used to be nobody said anything, but now we're at a period, people are speaking back and people are speaking out. Not gezellig. Not comfortable, so I am out. That's really what they say. It's not comfortable for me, so I'm out. And so this is a position of power and privilege in the dominant position, and I want to be clear about that. There's nothing wrong with that. Right? I like some power. Shoot, we all like some power. But it's about how do you use it. That's what it's about, right? Because this is about power and privilege, but it can also be about talent. It can also be about leadership. It can also be about responsibility. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. But how do you use it? I can say I have a PhD and you don't, so later for you. Or I can say I have a PhD, therefore I can open the door for you. Right? So again, being in a dominant position is not necessarily a negative thing. But disposition also sometimes comes with it should be comfortable for me at any and all times. And if not, then I said, I just can't say anything anymore, and I'm not. And so it is my goal to help each other, first of all, to become aware, of these patterns that we have. And how are we going to disrupt them? And at the same time, be sensitive to being in this position as well as in this position. It's easy to have compassion for this position. And you also have compassion for this position. Because remember, at any given time, you might be up here, you might be down there. It's always about us. About things that we've learned, things that we've come to adapt, that we've come to accept. And there's a certain awareness now. We want to change it. Okay, we can change it. But let's know that when we do, the confrontation, not for self. Will you stay in the conversation with me even when it's uncomfortable? That's the challenge. Because right now we're in a very interesting period. It's very sensitive, and I'm hurt. Yeah, I know you're hurt. But I didn't know. I know you didn't know. Right? Can we have compassion regardless of where people are at? And then, that way, bring people together and to collectively create another story. Next slide, please. And so, how do we do that? How do we tell a different story? Not just a different story, but what I consider an expanded story. Right? Again, going back to the example of my son, there's nothing wrong with European art history. I like European art history, but you're missing out on a whole bunch of other stuff. Right? And sometimes people are afraid when they get to speak, then my story gets to be put aside. Now, what we need to do is interweave our stories so we can expand and so we can be enriched. And so how do we do this? A whole bunch of things I can say about that, but I want to give you at least 3 things, because I know you can remember 3 things. Right? So our starting point is that it's always about us. There's no them, there's no those, there's only us, right? And how we relate to each other. And then it's about care, courage, and humility. That when we do this work, it's important to come from care and compassion. Right? Can I have compassion to this position as well as this position? Can I be sensitive, to some of the things that go on? And you hear a lot about self-care. When we do this work and when we create spaces where it's safe enough for people to really share who they are, you're going to hear some painful stories. It's going to do stuff to you. And so the self-care, again, thinking of ourselves even as extended, how do I show up every day and be in connection with people, knowing that some of the stories on my head, they're going to move you, they're going to hurt you. So you have to start listening to yourself, and not just here, but all of yourself. Today I need to take a step back. And then that's okay. Today I've done enough so that I can show up again tomorrow. Because people who do this work, they burn out very quickly. And for some reason, burnout has become our normal. Burnout is not normal. The fact that people disappear for weeks, months at a time, that should not be a normal thing. Right? So how can we love, care, and be in relationship with each other, knowing that there's pain, knowing that there's these histories? And how do I show up in a healthy way? Because the world that I want to create, I want people to be healthy, and I need to be healthy too. So that's really important. So the care to each other, that you show come from a place of caring, but also that you care for yourself. The second one is courage. I'm going to speak up. It's not going to be chesel. It's not going to be comfortable. Am I still going to say it? So I'm going to have to say something. Right? If I speak up, I might be the only one. Am I still going to do it? So it's important that you are courageous. But it is really important. Courage always has to be paired with wisdom. Because I can be very bold and kick in the door, and then the door slams right back in my face. So you have to be strategic. I'm going to speak on this, but maybe not now, because right now I'm really angry. And my goal is not just to disrupt, but my goal is always to do this. So let me chill out. Let me go for a walk for a minute. Let me get back to this. But I'm going to speak on it. But who do I need to speak to? How do I need to speak to? When do I need to speak to? I'm going to speak, but I have to be strategic about it. Right? That's the second one. And the third one is humility. Humility in the sense that when we do this work, know that you're going to do dumb things, you're going to say stupid things, you're going to make stupid mistakes. And no other people will do dumb things, they're going to say stupid things, and they're going to make stupid mistakes. So a big part of this when we get to learn how to forgive. Wow. It's not always chesed. Woo! And forgiving other people is sometimes easier than forgiving ourselves. Right? Oh, I can can't believe I did. You believe it? Yes, you did. Welcome to the human race. So I want to share, I'm not going on much, I want to share one story real quick. This is a story about Sayer. So Sarah and I, we met actually through you and Sarah and I, we got to present we were invited to speak at a women's conference. And, you all know Sarah's an excellent speaker. And so then I was at SIU and I invited him to come speak to my class. And at the end of class, we were kind of talking and he said, when I was going through my transition, there were no books for my children. I was like, I thought about this. We can do something with that, right? And so the next semester, I was teaching applied anthropology. So I invited Sayer to come to my class and person from the library, children's library, and we talked about stories that are available for children in transgender families, which was little to nothing. So that whole assignment for the class that semester was we engaged with the help of Sayer, we engaged with the transgender community and talked with people as a child. What stories do you wish would have been there? What stories would have helped you? So we collected that. Then based on that, we wrote 6 stories. And my friend teaches theater. She's like, we can do something with that. So she created a reader's theater with these stories. Wonderful, wonderful project. We got a grant and everything. Went back to the Netherlands, picked it up again, linked up with the LGBT youth organization in The Hague, and we started sharing these stories again. And during one of the rehearsals, one of the young people came to me. Now, I was used to people transitioning from male to female and female to male. I was not really used to the non-binary. So this young person came to me and said, you keep gendering me and that hurts. Not gezellig. And your first reaction is, but I didn't mean to. Your first reaction is, I had to just shut up and listen. Because it was not about me and my drama. This person was courageous enough to come and talk to me, and I just had to shut up and listen. Okay. Yeah. So I listened. At the end, I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. And I deeply apologize. Now, I cannot promise that I will never do it again, but I can promise that from now on, I will do my best to do better, and address you in a way, that I should. I can do that. And then, and after that, then what I wanted to do, here you are, Miss Ally, thinking you are all that. You screwed up. Then I went there. And it was still about me and my drama, right? So I had to let it go. So yeah, you screwed up. Welcome to the human race. Now let it go because it's not about you and your drama. It's about these people here that you can help and assist. And you have to let it go. And so that's the word. I show up, I care, I screw up, but I'm going to show up again. I'm trying a little bit better. There's no in my world, people want to know what are the 10 best practices. I'm sorry, there's no checklist. You try, you screw up, you try again. But you show that you care, right? And you show that you have a loving heart. That's the basic requirement. You have breath in your body, you have a heart, you qualify. Everything else is a story. Your gender, your sexuality, everything else is extra. You have breath in your body, you have a compassionate heart. That's all you need. Right? And then together we will figure it out. So, that's what let's do.
Looking at a 45-minute service that is always in the sweet spot. Okay, as Robin passes the offering basket, I offer the gentle reminder that this community of faith is supported by only your giving. Stewardship is more than financial donations, but also about donating time and talent to help our church. We had people help with the lunch today, and people help with welcoming visitors coming. You can write a check or to help our church survive and thrive, or offer your time to help make coffee, bring snacks, be an usher, or any of the other things that keep this place moving forward. Give what you will and what you're able, for you are a generous people. I should bring my drums for some reason today. We need to do that more often. Please join me in our offering prayer. May this offering equip us to inspire love and seek justice. Go ahead and start now. Okay. So next Sunday, our public speaker will be John Herndon, and the service is entitled Remembering Roe and the Development of a Theology of Resistance Healing. And if we're lucky, maybe he will share his musical talents with us. Fingers crossed. In addition, on Saturday of this coming week, we'll be hosting a showing of the video of Heather Cox Richardson's talk in December. Robin and I were there at Wash U, followed by a discussion forum by Robin. And we're opening this to the community. It happens at 1 o'clock here. With an aging and needy building no longer sapping our resources and energy, we have a full calendar of things coming forward. Mark your calendars for the Unitarian. Yep.
And thank you, Peg, for kicking it off.
So mark your calendars for a Unitarian presence at the Saturday Ocean Market here in Edwardsville. We're working on that for spring, summer, and fall. And if you have some ideas for giveaways or something where we can entice people to our little booth, let me know. In the past, with other groups I've been with, we gave away cutie oranges that we let the kids decorate with faces, or bananas, and just kind of something to be part of the community. We're not selling anything. We're just letting them know we're here. The music and earth-based spirituality of the Troubadours of Divine Bliss will return to lead. That's a Kentucky group, actually. They'll be here to lead a service and a workshop on July 13th and 14th. And there might also be, we're gelling on a concert in the woods, a little like 20 miles north of Edwardsville, Bunker Hill. So that might happen too. We're on the schedule for a fundraiser to help the Edwardsville Moose. Remember when we had church moose time? And that'll be a fundraiser on July 16th, and so we'll have some volunteers helping with that. We're going to be part of Unity Fest. We're going to be part of Pride. We're going to be part of SIU events, and even a Halloween parade here in Edwardsville. So we are infused with possibilities and enthusiasm. Our current mask policies are to protect our immunocompromised friends and attendants, so we encourage masking now and in the first 15 minutes of fellowship, and then ring the bell or something, and after that time, masking is optional, and we have plans today for a tasty lunch, and after that, you're all invited to join us for a special workshop led by Aminata.
A couple things. Suzanne has asked me, wave your hands. Suzanne has asked me for volunteers who can help with website redesign. She's not like that you don't have to have the technical skill, but you have to be creative and thinking about what kind of content would we like to see on our website. So anybody's voice matters, old and young. We just want to hear what your ideas are, how we can make that website more welcoming to draw people to our church. It's something that we set aside for a while because the burden of the building and all the things, you've heard the story. But yay, that we can have that. And Suzanne's been doing a fabulous job, and we're getting ready to really get into that redesign very quickly. Lastly, Jennifer asked me to remind you all that Girl Scout cookies will be for sale. After the service, her daughter Emily will be selling Girl Scout cookies out there. So if you need anything, let me know. And Heather Cox Richardson, we're good to go. I'm going to test that today. So, okay. Thank you. Oh yes, and always we need help for cleaning up. Aminata, do you want this to be an open space for you here and just maybe some metal chairs? Yeah. So
because all this gets shoved back.
Right. So we'll have if we could have some help in a little bit. Right. Yeah. We have to clean up this week. I know I emailed everybody. They have an extra. We normally try to be able to keep things set up, but they have a new member coming to the group, to the lodge. So they had an extra service this Thursday. They're going to have something, so we have to make sure we're clean for that. So that's it.
I invite you to join me in reciting the prayer as I extinguish the chalice. Light of truth. And now Joy will share music with us to conclude this service. Oh, and we'll see you at the coffee shrine and for lunch real soon. And if you're willing and able, please bring a chair with you into that area because we're going to have to share them back and forth. Thank you. Well, we need them for the eating, and they'll have to bring them back. Yeah, we kind of have mobile chairs happening today.